Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back, and this is a brand new Isagi What If, or at least technically the parts of this movie were actually put on the Egoist Kingdom channel. So if you ever see these movies come out and the series were not even here at all, then that normally means that this series was done on the Egoist Kingdom channel. With that said, if you enjoy What If Isagi Had Freak Genetics, then make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, and check the link in the description if you want to watch these videos early in terms of the series portions of it. And if you do, make sure to check out the Egoist Kingdom. I don't got much else to say. Let's get into the video. Height, weight, and everything in terms of human attributes is insanely important in terms of sports. Now, with that said, Isagi and canon didn't have much of any of that. Height, weight, stuff like that, length, high jumping, and he was very below average, if not average, but his mind made up for that. But what would happen if Isagi had insane genetics? What if Isagi was born to parents that gave him genetics that were absolutely freakish? Now that's what we're going to be going into. Isagi would be born to two parents that were far above average, father being that of 6'3 to 6'5, mother being that of about 5'10. Huge and monstrous beings, really. The woman being far above average and the man being far above average as well. Now with that said, both of them have a background in various different sports, being track athletes or just athletes in general, and then they have a kid by the name of Yoichi Isagi. This gives Isagi even more and crazy genetics in terms of attributes. But on top of that, he will then be able to maintain his own mind in terms of the way he sees soccer. And frankly, at the beginning of everything, he wouldn't have an ego. He would be a giant monster among boys, and frankly, he would just be a solid and big dude, ranging from about 6'3 to 6'5, same height around same height as his father, built like an ox. And in terms of football, the game he truly loves, he's a monster on the field, using his body in various different ways. And it all starts with the final game, or the tournament finals, with his team trailing 1-0. Yoichi Isagi. Normally, he would heed the words from his coach, that soccer is about being a team and that soccer is this and that, and normally he would opt to pass the ball, but this time around he would decide against it. Yes, he does believe in the team. Yes, he believes in teamwork and so on, but this time, using his own advantages, using his body, he would solo out the person that's standing in front of him, dribbling by him easily because of just his strength and size. It's as if it's bully ball. He barrels through the boy and he kicks the ball straight toward the goalie, but the ball would curve at the last second, scoring the goal, making it 1-1. He would get set back on defense and be looking to make a play that would send his team to nationals. So he would await his opportunity. He would await Kira to pull up and walk up the ball. As he does so, Kira would look for a quick pass, but Isagi would bait him into hesitating, and once he hesitates, well, Isagi was all over him. With his strength and size, he's easily able to overwhelm Kira as he steals the ball from him, and as he does, he immediately sees one of his teammates ready for an outlet pass. He passes the ball, and his teammate would be swarmed by a person or a defender, but as he is swarmed, he would recklessly pass toward Isagi's direction, and through his greater size, he's able to jump in the air and more or less control the ball with his chest, bringing it back down as he begins to bolt forward faster than everybody on the field. They've never seen a grown teenager, more like a grown man, run at such insane speeds, even though he's so big. This is absolutely insane. It's honestly just mind-boggling. He would dash forward and soon he would have the opportunity to kick the ball. And when he does, he would score, putting his team up by 1 point as the whistle would sound. The game would be over, and the team that Isagi led to this point would win. But that is not the only great thing that would occur. When he arrives back at home, he would see a letter waiting for him. his mother and father would congratulate him on whatever he got into, saying that it must be the next step for him to get into better places in football. Maybe he'll be even better equipped. Maybe he'll get into better clubs. They're not so sure, but they would just make these assumptions, saying that it's truly going to be amazing and truly is going to be his opportunity to show what he truly has. Isagi is excited about this. I mean, come on, he has to be. He's ramped up about the idea of taking his game to the next level, ramped up at the idea of joining this so-called place. He's not sure exactly what it is, but still, he's definitely excited to get into it. And soon, when he would arrive at that said place, he would see this auditorium. When he would arrive at the auditorium, though, he would see someone that looks very familiar. One, Kira. Kira would actually congratulate Isagi, saying that he's amazing. The way he's able to utilize his strengths, his body, his height, and everything is truly great. Isagi says that he appreciates it, and that Kira is really good himself. And frankly, he just talks about the idea that he's just really good with his body and utilizes it to all of his advantages because of his mind. He's able to use his mind in a really good way and actually utilize his mind in a way so that he could just utilize this body to his fullest capabilities, in which, of course, Kira would say that if they were on the same team, he feels they would be unstoppable, in which Isagi would smile and say that they definitely would be. As he walks into the auditorium with Kira, he would see various other people, and these various other people were all strikers, every last one of them. And eventually, the one and the only Jinpachi Ego would arrive, talking and seeing all of them, explaining what's going on, and explaining to them that this is Blue Lock. Blue Lock is to create the greatest striker, the striker of all strikers, and that they will lead Japan's national team to win the World Cup. But there's a caveat. Whoever decides to join Blue Lock, if they get eliminated, they will never, ever play for Japan's national team ever. And everybody is standing there shocked. No way he could do that, right? That's insane. What kind of horrible place is this? But something deep down in Isagi would have excitement. Excitement for the first time. His physical gifts, his mind itself, has allowed him to reach levels that, well, made everyone seem like chumps. But now he's looking at everyone around him. These are all new challenges, all new ways of getting better and stronger and faster and just overall being the best. So when he thinks and puts it in his own head that this could be the next level for him to step up to, he watches the doors open up and Isagi would walk forward. He would walk forward undeterred, and as he walks through the door, or the giant doorway, he would look toward Ego. He would look at him, and Ego would look back with a straight face, and Isagi would tell him that he's already found the best striker in the world. As he walks in, and, well, Ego is shocked to hear this. He's been watching this kid play football for a little bit. He's never really had much of an ego, but it seems as if this environment itself has upped Isagi's just level of want for whatever is to come. It's obvious that Isagi wants it more than ever before, so when he arrives in Team Z's room and begins to get ready and he gets all settled in, it seems like he's just dormant, serious, and ready to go. This is the sport he loves, but at the same time, his goal has always been to be on the Japan's national team. So, if this is the way to do it, this is the way he's going to get it done. He's going to be on Japan's national team, and he's going to show why he is the perfect striker. And while he's waiting, and everybody is getting to know each other, and Isagi is getting to know everyone as well, Jinpachi Ego is currently watching over all of them. He looks toward Isagi on the screen, and he begins to think that this kid, he reminds him of one Noel Noah. It seems as if his body type is perfect for it, and it seems as if Isagi himself, from what he's seen prior to actually Blue Lock, it seems as if he might be someone that could be ready, just like Noel Noah, or could get ready to be someone like Noel Noah. But he doesn't know that much about Isagi. He hasn't personally watched hours of tape or anything like that. So he begins to just wait, and he's going to watch how they go about the tag portion of the events. In terms of the tag portion of the events, Ego would pop up on the screen, and he would begin speaking about what everything is basically means and how many strikers are in the facility. He explains more and more, and then eventually would explain the first trial. The first trial is a game of tag, in which the person who is struck by the ball or is kicked by the ball is it, and whoever is it when the time expires is eliminated. In saying this, he says they have 2 minutes and 16 seconds to figure out who will be eliminated, and immediately the ball would drop from the ceiling as the timer would begin to tick down. Isagi would watch as they would all just stand there in complete shock, and the ball would just kind of roll around, nobody wanting to touch it. But eventually, Isagi would walk over and touch the ball. He says that there's no way around what's going to happen. This is their game, and this is the game they're going to have to fulfill. He then punts the ball so hard that it goes flying toward one of the people there, and someone immediately would get struck, getting struck right in the rib cage, and he could feel the pressure of the ball slam into him. It's Gagamaru. Gagamaru wasn't even able to move, and he's more of a flexible type of striker. He's normally able to move out of the way easily, but Gagamaru would quickly kick the ball as well and hit the monk boy, Iragashi. As he does this, Isagi would continue to move around, just waiting for someone else to strike toward him. But yeah, he might be a big target, but he's obviously insanely agile, even more agile than most of the smaller people currently there. Iragashi, or the monk boy, would try and strike toward other people, and eventually he would see someone sleeping on the ground, one Bachira. He would see Bachira, and Isagi would look at Bachira as Iragashi is about to actually strike him in the face while sleeping, but he has a bad feeling about this. As he goes to do so, Bachira kicks him straight in the face. Everyone is completely shocked, and everyone just stands there, saying that that's not allowed. But Bachira says that there was nothing against the rules, and the only rule was that there was no handballs. Of course, Bachira would end up kicking the ball back toward the monk boy, and it would basically hit him right in the face once again. The ball would roll back to Bachira, but for some reason he would touch the ball again, and it's kind of odd. Why did he do that? He knows that he could have just automatically basically won, but he looks around to see somebody, and he looks and he sees Isagi. Isagi would be standing there waiting, and Bachira would stare at him with this passion in his face, passion in his eyes, as if he wants to play soccer with him. Bachira would boot the ball toward Isagi, and Isagi would smirk as he gathers it and looks at the time, being that there's only 1 minute left. He would kick the ball back toward Bachira, and Bachira would try to gather it. He would realize how strong Isagi is. He thinks it's insane. Someone of his physique, he thought that he would be strong in terms of kicking power, but this is even stronger than he would possibly even imagine. He would kick the ball back toward Isagi, but Isagi would continue going back and forth with him, thinking that both of them are insanely good. But Bachira would say that they all have numbers on their arms. Doesn't he want to get rid of the strongest person here, the best person here? Isagi would knock the ball back toward him, and Isagi would look at his number and have a realization that he's not the best person even in this room. He's confused. How is that even possible? He looks around to find out who is, and as Bachira is just dribbling the ball with himself, and eventually Bachira just sighs, saying that he's already spotted the best person. He kicks the ball, and it's like a laser beam, and he kicks it straight toward Kira. Kira's not even able to react in time, and it hits him directly in the face. Kira tries to recover, but there's only about 10 seconds left. He kicks it right back toward Bachira, as Bachira would kick it as well, but this time around he would loft it, a pass, a perfect pass straight to Isagi. He could just avoid it, dodge it, and Kira would be just fine. Bachira would be out of here, but Isagi doesn't even hesitate, as he immediately would leap into the air, and he would kick the ball with his right foot, launching it straight toward Kira. as Kira would get hit directly in the stomach as it would dig into his ribs and he would fall backwards. He would look up at the ceiling and then look at the TV screen to see that the time hits 0. He begins to freak out, asking Isagi why he would do that, and Isagi would tell him to shut his mouth, that it was obvious that he wasn't fit to do this, and on top of that, he wasn't really a true striker. The eyes that Isagi is giving off are something of insane madman eyes. Even Bachira looks back at him thinking that this guy, he's truly a monster, the way his brain works, but at the same time it complements the way he utilizes his own body. He truly is on another level. It's as if having these insane genetics gave Isagi a new way of learning football, and in doing this, it made him an insane football player. Of course, they have no idea who he is exactly, but he does remind them of one person, and most of them can realize the resemblance, or at least realize some sort of resemblance on their own, and it's Noel Noah. He's so similar to him. Why, it's insane. But they're not sure why. They're not 100% sure how he even got to this point, and they don't say much after that. And during this time, Kira is just freaking out, revealing himself to have a massive ego, saying that he's definitely not the worst here, there's just no way. But Isagi's barely even listening to him. All he's listening to is kind of the reactions from everyone else, the other 10 people that are currently there, and eventually, well, Ego would appear on the screen saying that it's time for Kira to lock off, that it's over for him, and he was obviously just unable to keep up. And it was obvious he was the furthest away from being the #1 striker in Japan. Of course, Kira would kind of talk against this, but eventually he would lock off, and everybody would realize that there is a perfect 11 people there, and eventually they would know exactly why that's the case. 11 players remaining will form Team Z. They'll live together, and they'll work together, and on top of that, sometimes they will even betray each other. It doesn't matter. And afterwards, the players will train and eat and work together and get ready for their first matches. In learning all of this information, Isagi is immediately in the gym. Any gym time he can get, any time that he can work on the field, he takes it. He begins to just build himself up even more, and frankly, his physique begins to grow even faster than it was before, especially with a more structured regimen. He begins to just work hard on everything, and at one point, they all begin to speak about what they're actually capable of and what they should actually do when it comes to, well, this whole next match. And Isagi doesn't say much about it initially, but they do speak about how there's going to be repercussions for every single thing, in which Ego would eventually explain. He would explain that more or less everybody was assigned teams based on their player ranks, and that's why they're here. They're the lowest rated players. But beyond that, he would begin to explain that they're going to have to actually figure out what to do against these other teams and how they're going to work together as 11 strikers, because at the end of the day, that was the core of football. At the core of football, everybody was just trying to score goals, so they're going to have to figure it out on their own. And Isagi would realize this to be just relatively true. He knows that there's more layers to all of this, he knows, but this might be the best way for not only him, but everybody else to evolve in their own ways. But still, that's not something he truly thinks about too much, especially because they haven't even had their first match. So Team Z prepares to play their first match against Team X. And this match is going to be something interesting, because Isagi will be going against somebody that physique is very similar to his own. And this is going to be the first time he's ever gone against someone with a similar physique to him. And that guy's name is Baro. So they enter the fields and get ready to take on Team X. And this will be Blue Lock's Team Z versus Team X first match. And off the bat, it's obvious that everybody around is just flat out just uncoordinated. It's almost impossible. Everybody kind of clashes with each other, trying to more or less score here or score there, and everyone fights amongst each other, the teammates, to advance to be basically the top scorer. Because at the end of the day, if your team wins all of the games or wins the mass majority and is the top 2 teams, then they go through. But at the same time, if you're the top scorer, then you automatically go through. So that kind of is the best bet. But as they're all fighting for the ball and many people are fighting for it, Isagi's just watching the chaos. And as he watches the chaos, he sees a monster of a man come running out of that chaos, taking the ball and immediately bolting through. It's Baro, and he sees himself and other known as King Baro. So King Baro begins to run forward, but Isagi goes to cut him off. As he does, Baro puts on a nice move, a move that Isagi wasn't really expecting, and Baro would get by, and just in the nick of time, Baro would shoot and he would score the goal, just as Isagi was actually maintaining distance and about to make a play on the ball. Everybody begins to argue on Team Z, but just as Isagi is listening to them all bicker, the noise around him begins to fade away. As it does, Isagi would see Bachira tap the ball toward him, and Bachira can tell that Isagi's in a different realm of existence at this point. He would take the ball and he would begin running at insane speeds, faster than even Baro himself, and everybody's watching as a giant man, this man that's about 6'3", maybe even 6'4", 6'5", begins bolting through the defense. But his dribbling skills, it's almost as good as his speed. He begins to bolt through, and it's as if his vision is developing by every step he takes. Yes, he's not just some brainless monster. Even Bachira can see this. He's not just some normal jock. He's not some big guy that's just can kick real hard. He's different. He can see the field better than anybody else can. And as he bolts through, let's just say he reaches that perfect distance, and even with 3 people in front of him, he kicks the ball and it curves around all of them, and he pins it in the top right of the goal. Everyone stands there in shock. Even Baro is shocked as well, but a smirk would grow over his face. He believes that this could be an insane shootout, and well, Team Z decides to just form around Isagi, maybe work together and try to get him goals. But Isagi says that he's going to stop Baro, so make sure to pay attention, that he'll be able to set people up for goals as well. And everyone is shocked to hear this. Well, I mean, what type of formation should they even get in? But Isagi says he doesn't care, just don't mess each other up. That's the name of the game right now. They need to work together, but find their own strengths in this football game. As Baro would come charging forward, he would look to kind of pass out and then get the ball back immediately for himself just to reposition. But as he tries to make a move on Isagi, it's as if Isagi and his body is able to react and steal the ball from Baro this time around. Isagi's not only using his mind, his brain, but he's big enough to the point that he can easily stop Baro if he knows where he's going. And frankly, Baro is predictable. He's being way too predictable for Isagi, so when Isagi steals the ball, he begins to immediately look for an outlet pass. But as he does, he sees that his teammates are kind of clashing with each other. It seems that Raichi is actually out on the break, but at the same time, he's kind of clashing with the area where Bachira is, so it begins sucking in other people. Isagi gets frustrated by this, but he continues to push the pace, pushing past Baro and also pushing past a couple of the other players. As he does this, he begins to smell something. He smells a goal, and he immediately would tap the ball with his left foot so beautifully, in fact, that everybody believes that he must be able to use both of his feet perfectly. But where is he even passing that ball? But as the ball begins to land, it's right in the airspace of Kunigami, and Kunigami darts the ball so hard that it looks like Isagi was the one kicking it. They didn't realize that they had another freak of nature on their team as well. Just in his perfect range, Kunigami nails the goal, and everybody stands there just excited. They're up 2-1, but Bato seems frustrated, and the rest of their team seems frustrated as well. They don't want to play through Bato. They feel like that Isagi guy, he must be shutting him down. They can't just let him run wild. They're gonna lose. They're gonna fail. And in doing this, it actually allows the team of Team X to crumble to pieces. Everyone else trying to get their own now makes it so that the teamwork of Team Z, that really isn't even that good, makes it seem as if they're completely coordinated, completely ready, and just willing to work together. But frankly, that's not even necessarily the case. It's just they look so much better than Team X that there's just no comparison. So when Bato tries to take the ball and more or less bolt off by himself, everybody kind of distracts him, calling for the ball or getting in his way, trying to take the ball away, and it leads to openings for Raichi, Isagi, and even the Monk Boy to steal the ball, and many others to steal the ball as well. In doing so, Isagi would just be looking for outlet passes to the best of his ability, getting one down to Bachira as Bachira bolts through the defense with his insane dribbling, cutting past most of the people, actually taking on 2 people at the same time. As he cuts by them, he looks for his open goal, but he sees that it's not there. But for some reason, the monster is speaking to him, and Isagi can tell that even Bachira has some good just self-awareness in terms of the field. He would pass the ball toward the middle of the field, and one person is there to meet them, and that's Isagi. Isagi kicks the ball, and even Bachira stands there in complete awe. He's excited to play with someone that has a monster like Isagi, and he's excited to play with someone that has a monster as well, just like Isagi. And it's truly amazing. And Bachira is just in complete awe. I mean, even himself, he's not the best passer in the world, but in a way his passes are soft and delicate, so they're able to basically set up Isagi for goals relatively easily. But at the same time, they have someone similar to Isagi, at least to an extent, in Kunigami, and well, the passes will be beautiful if they truly set themselves up properly. And Isagi can see that this team of strikers actually seems to be fitting together properly. And yes, they all are technical strikers, but let's be honest, they were all on high school teams and stuff like that. So dominating from the striker position just made sense, especially if you were just the best on your team. It just made sense for you to play a striker's position. But still, now that they're all in different, more or less different positions, it's kind of still fits perfectly together. They're all threatening for the goal. But since they all know the proper steps to hopefully get to that goal, it actually helps many others to get to their own goals. That might be why Jinpachi Ego set it up in this way. Maybe he realized that they would find out different ways, a formula of scoring, in which Isagi seems to already understand. But it's not just an understanding of one formula for Isagi. It seems as if he understands a formula that is just overly expanded. It seems like his formula is just unraveling at all times. Isagi's vision for the field is truly amazing, and everybody realizes it, especially when Bato is a null factor. He goes from someone that looks like a dominant monster to someone that looks like a puny weakling, just like that. It's pretty shocking, and they're all taken back by this. I mean, how is Bato just being dominated, being destroyed? And it's all because of Isagi. It's not just because of his body type. It's not just because he's strong. It's not just because he's fit, fast, and so on. Yes, those things help, but the fact that he knows how to utilize his body to his advantage and utilize his mind to understand the field is the reason why Isagi has such an advantage over all of the people on the field currently. And it seems like he's only getting better, because he hates to admit it, and many hate to admit it, but Bato is a talented striker. So when iron meets iron and sharp swords meet sharp swords, everything that goes on just makes the entirety of Blue Lock sharper in their striking abilities, and just sharper in their football IQ. But at the end of the day, Team X would fall, losing 5-1 to Team Z. Yes, 5-1. Everyone on Team Z would celebrate, being excited, And there's one person that isn't necessarily celebrating just yet. Isagi would walk over toward Baro and say that he was amazing, but at the same time, he just wasn't the player that he truly is. He tells him that soon he'll realize that he can't do it all on his own, that he'll need to make sacrifices, that he'll need to find his own path. But at the same time, he's no longer the main character. He's no longer the main character of the story. That he's unfortunately a side character in this story of Yoichi Isagi. Isagi would walk away and Baro would stand there in complete shock. And everybody would ask him what he said, but he would give no response, just smiling, saying that they should celebrate and have some great food. I mean, first match is down and they've won convincingly. It's exciting. It truly is. And against someone like Baro is definitely a spectacle. And everybody just agrees and forgets about what they asked him initially. They all head off to their rooms or their room, and they would celebrate, be excited about what occurred, and be excited about what ensued. Everything fell into place perfectly for them. At the end of the day, it was amazing. Yes, they took on Team X, and they had a little struggles here and there, but it seems like after the match, they truly got to the point that it was working out, and everything seemed to fall in place, which was amazing. Ego would then talk to them for a little bit, talking about the open-ended nature of a striker, and just talk about how these Japanese athletes are successful when the rules are defined, but they struggle in sports that rely heavily on open-ended rules. But now it's time for them to show exactly what they're made of. He says that all of their numbers will be updated and so on, and Isagi would see that his score is updated to the number 1 in Team Z. But of course, he doesn't understand or know anybody else outside of Team Z, at least to an extent. He begins to speak with everybody about what they should basically expect in the next match. They're taking on Team Y. Now, they don't know exactly anything or much of anything about Team Y, but he believes that they should all talk about what they just know about themselves, what are they really good at, and so on and so forth, in which many of them would speak about it. Some would say that they're extremely good at dribbling, like Bachira. Kunigami would say that his ability to more or less score goals or just kick in general puts him on another level. But what would Isagi even be? I mean, he's kind of all of that, no? He says that in a way he is. And in a way he's kind of insane at everything. But it's not necessarily that simple. He's not as good at dribbling as Bachira, but he can see himself being kind of in the same realm of Kunigami. But at the same time, Kunigami is just a great player to have on the field as well, because, well, it's kind of like having a stationary version of himself. And he apologizes to Kunigami and says that he doesn't want that to sound bad or anything, but at the end of the day, I mean, he can assume and he can see that he's definitely faster than him. And Kunigami would wave him off, saying that he doesn't take offense to that. That's kind of what it is at the end of the day. And Isagi would say that, if anything, the skill he has or the weapon he has is the ability to smell a goal. And his body, his mind, and all of that complement it. Yes, he can score a goal from a long range out. He can pass with both feet. He can score with both feet. But at the same time, his ability to smell the goal and understand what's happening around him is truly what makes him lethal. And everybody stands there and nods, thinking that it makes sense. I mean, it honestly does. It would make him absolutely lethal, and it did in the match against Team X. So, it might be the same thing in terms of Team Y. And some conversation happens about the idea of maybe they should run the offense through Isagi. And Isagi says that he'll go along with anything they want, and they can always change things on the fly, as long as they're paying attention and listening. Isagi says that he can see the field better than most can. That's why he's able to smell a goal. But at the same time, everybody needs to buy in. So if they do go with a plan, they need to stick to that plan. They can't just go off on their own and do their own thing, because if they fall short, well, that's a bad thing. Everyone agrees. They agree that they will make a plan, and they will have Isagi kind of be the forefront of it. And Isagi says that they won't regret that, and he'll make sure that everything goes proper in their next match, in which Raichi tries to argue, but then says that he better make it go right, and if he's open for a goal, he better pass it. And Isagi says that he can smell a goal from a mile away, so he'll know before even Raichi knows. And as he looks around, and after hearing everybody speak, he does go to one last person, Chiguri. He begins to question Chiguri, asking what his weapon is, but Chiguri says that he's not going to tell him, that they're all competition anyways, so why would he? In which he looks at Chiguri one last time, kind of squinting at him. Interesting. And as he wouldn't say much more after that, everybody would be confused, as if Isagi has some idea what type of person Chiguri is. But Isagi doesn't say much more, and that's all he would do. He would just say that it's okay, doesn't matter that he doesn't want to say anything, and he would leave it at that. Everybody would be kind of confused about this, but would leave it as is, and the next day would eventually come, and the game against Team Y would finally ensue. And it would be pretty obvious what Team Y wants to do, at least in terms of, in retrospect. Team Y wants to set up goals through Nico. Nico is an amazing passer, and he can see the field relatively well, very similar to how Isagi sees the field. But on top of that, they have a plan to use someone on their team by the name of Okawa to more or less stretch the field and then show an amazing kick, an amazing pass, and it would lead to an easy goal. It seems like that was their plan, and that was the plan that was set up from the very beginning. And it would be a pretty decent plan, but as everyone should understand, that a set plan like the one they were going for doesn't necessarily work flawlessly, especially when you have talent on the other side. Isagi would immediately be able to read something as simple as what they're doing. Isagi would read the team like a book, and honestly, frustrations would begin to build within himself when he looks toward Nico. Nico seems to be orchestrating everything. He sees the field beautifully, but he goes to what? He does this? He doesn't utilize it for his own striking ability? Maybe this is exactly what ego meant. At the end of the day, some people want to fit into roles so badly, but in this type of regard, Nico fitting into a role that he was good at takes away from a role that he could have been great at. And Isagi begins to expose that. He begins to make sure that Okawa couldn't really do much because he would restrict all airspace in front of Nico. In doing this, it would leave for openings for the defenders of Team Z to easily steal the ball and get the ball to, well, Isagi. When it gets to Isagi, the orchestra begins. It's as if it's a perfectly played just melody that Isagi is laying out. It's a pass in perfect range to Kunigami, who's looking for an amazing goal from his perfect range. In orchestrating that, it leaves Bachira open for easy 1 versus 1s or even 2 versus 1s, in which his dribbling skills would easily be able to be capable of getting by people. In terms of long goals, he could easily set up Gagamaru for goals that he's the only one able to touch, and every single person begins to play their role. Once they cut off Nico, once they cut off the lifeline, that the only lifeline they have, Okawa is useless, and it seems like Nico begins to realize that everything their team was built off of soon falls apart. and a team that they believe that just maybe they could get a quick lead on and then play keep away against, well, let's just say that idea went away really fast once this freak began to take over. And the freak that Nico is even suggesting and looking at is Isagi, the freak and monster of every single football field to come. But at the same time, he's a monster that has logic. And when you have a monster that has logic, there's very few people that could stop him. There's very few people that can stop Isagi. The game is practically over before it even started, The matchup was just not a good one for Nico's team, not a good one for Team Y, and the game would end in a blowout, being very similar to Team Y's first match against Team V. They lost 8-0 against Team V, and they lose 8-0 against Isagi's team. And Isagi would even bring up to Nico that maybe he should look deeper into his bag of striker tricks, because him playing the support role is not something he should be doing. He leaves and his team would celebrate. Team Z is 2-0, and with the next match on the horizon, who knows what's to come. But that will have to wait until part 2. After their last game, a realization would more or less flood over everybody, that they have the talent advantage, or at least to an extent, it definitely feels that way. And it's kind of crazy to think about it, because in the first place, they believed that they were kind of the bottom of the barrel, but now it feels like they're at the top of the heap. So when they're going against Team W, especially being up 2-0, they are pretty damn confident, especially when they're basically following behind Isagi. Isagi, someone that is built like a monster of a striker, and on top of that, has the mind of a strategist. So overall, it seems as if they have a great thing going on. So in terms of the plan against Team W, they begin to kind of strategize what they should do, what they should think, and also certain things they need to keen in on. And it all starts with the Wanama twins. The Wanama twins are something that they're definitely going to have to pay attention to and are definitely going to have to deal with over a long course of time. Because the Wanama twins, they are an issue in terms of coordination. But if you can abrupt that coordination and force anybody else to beat you, let's just say a lot of things will go their way. Isagi would look toward Raichi and many of the others, but mostly Raichi and Iragashi, telling them that they need to be disruptors as defenders. He knows that they're not too happy with the idea that they have to not be the strikers they normally are. But especially with this, if they're able to disrupt the chemistry of the Wanama twins, they will win this game very easily. Isagi will say that, and every single time that ball would get spiraled out of control or basically put in his lap, he will look for a pass down the field to some of them, from Bachira to Kunigami to Gagamaru, any plays that they can set up. He'll try his best to set them up as long as they all participate properly and as long as all of them stay in sync. They all need to buy in. Yes, they all need to buy in. They might be up 2-0, but if they can get this third win, they won't even have to worry about winning the last game. That would be just more or less a fun game, quote unquote. And of course, all of them would say that they're going to win this third game, but they're also going to win the fourth game. So let's shut down the Wanama twins, and then we'll go from there. But that night, Isagi would continue studying some of the film, but eventually would begin a conversation with the one and only Chiguri. He would speak with him, and they would have a conversation about why Chiguri acts the way he does. And Chiguri would ask Isagi why he even cares, why it even matters. The guy is gifted enough. He's extremely fast, extremely big, and he basically has athleticism that is off the charts. He is the perfect package to be the best striker. So why does it matter what Chiguri is doing or wants to do or whatever? And Isagi would tell Chiguri that if he decides to just give up, well, Everything he's ever worked for will be gone. And if that's what he really wants, there is no stopping it. But Isagi says that he wants the best out of Chiguri. He wants to see it. How athletic, how strong, how fast. And of course, Chiguri would cut him off. None of those things even matter right now. To leave him alone and that he'll do whatever he needs to do. In which Isagi would shake his head and would eventually say that he does care. And he hopes that he changes his mind here pretty soon. But the next morning would come, and the game against the Wanama twins, or Team W, would eventually begin. With the beginning of the game, Isagi and his team would start with the ball. And it would go exactly how the previous games would go, at least initially. Isagi would show his power, strength, and speed off the bat, and frankly his unguardability. It's kind of difficult to guard someone that big, especially when he's not so one-track minded. Because at the end of the day, someone like Kunigami, who is extremely big, but doesn't really have the footwork of Isagi, would struggle getting down the field. But in terms of someone like Bado, who has some good agility, some good footwork, may struggle getting down the field because his lack of coordination with his team. Isagi doesn't have those weaknesses. He's able to blitz through and look down the field for passes that are open, and also obviously goals from ranges that he knows he can score at. The first goal would go to Team Z, putting them up to 1-0. But the one issue that Isagi does realize he has is basically just understanding the game entirely. Yes, he does understand the game. He's not an idiot, and he's pretty smart in general. But he doesn't understand the game to the extent that some insane genius would. Even to the extent that maybe Nico would. He does understand how to block out and utilize his height, range, length, and all of those things to stop certain things from happening, kind of what he did last game. But at the end of the day, he's not some super genius that reads the field perfectly and intuitively. He is able to read the field in terms of just his reaction time, and also in terms of knowing that his body will make up for the difference. So that's why it on one part it does kind of seem like he can read the field and understand it. And that's why he's able to shut down what the Wanama twins would be able to do, or would be able to do normally. And that's why this plan that he built initially would work flawlessly. They would be able to shut down the Wanama twins. With him and Raichi, it would be very simple. And he would just look for outlet passes down the field to someone like Bachira, Gagamaru, Kunigami, and many others on the team. And it would be extremely simple of a game. But at the same time, Isagi knows that eventually they will start sticking to the people like Gagamaru, like Kunigami, like Bachira, and speed will eventually become an issue. They may be up at this point 2 to 3-0, and now that they're approaching kind of the end of halftime, he does have a realization that they need to pull more out of his team before they could truly blow the cap off this game. In terms of a defensive shutout, it seems like they're able to do so, but you never know what adjustments these people will make. In terms of adjustments, when they get back on the field after halftime, they can see that the Wanama twins come out with a new strategy. Their coordination still at an all-time high, but their new strategy definitely hurts the fact that Raichi and Isagi aren't in perfect sync in terms of defending. But eventually there would be a realization that someone on their team would be a killer of speed, like a red flash of Team Z. And eventually, a little too much talking and a little too much arrogance, even being down 3-0, the Wanama twins would break the shackles off of Chiguri, and Chiguri would go sprinting down the field. Isagi would be able to smell something. He would have a realization that he hasn't had in a while. A smell of a goal. Normally, he has the confidence and the wherewithal that he can more or less score from any distance. But he is on the other side of the field, practically on their side of the goal, or where their goal is. So where is he smelling this? He would look forward, and from basically his goal to the next, he would bomb the ball, kicking it so hard that even everyone around is shocked how the distance that it's making, and shocked that he's able to even get it that far. And as it lands, there's one person ready to receive it, Chiguri, immediately gathering the ball and scoring another goal, putting them up 4-0. The Wanama twins would be frustrated, thinking that there's no way Chiguri is in this game now. This doesn't make sense. He gave up. His ACL was gone. He was useless. But now his speed, it's back. Isagi would smirk and think that this is just another weapon to utilize in the grand scheme of things, and truly the field is opening up even greater. As he thinks this to himself, he begins to see the field in a brand new way, see the field in a way that he wasn't able to see before. His genetics and also his strength and intelligence now seemingly becoming one, but at the same time, he might be only thinking these things because the field has opened up because of Chiguri. The field has opened up because of what he's seen so far, which is insane. And Isagi is happy to see this and even tells Chiguri that he did a good job and that they're going to continue beating this team down until there's nothing left. Chiguri smirks and he knows exactly what he should do. And his speed would become such an X factor that the next 3 goals would be scored by him and him alone. Of course, with Isagi's help. But the team that they just faced was washed entirely. Team W was crushed under the foot of Isagi and Team Z, and the shutdown of the Wanama twins was successful. At the end of the game, not much is said, and all that needs to be said really is a celebration. A celebration between Team Z. They're excited to hear that they basically secured their spot at the next round. And now what is truly to come next is supposedly a challenge. Isagi may have insane genetics, and he might have a body type that, well, is absolutely in favor of soccer. He might be able to do some insane things, but what happens when he runs into a prodigy? Someone that is gifted, very similar to him? Well, that's what we're going to be seeing against Team V. Isagi would get the chance to speak with Ryo and Nagi before this. Isagi would speak with them and Ryo would be kind of cordial, but he would bring up the fact that this next game means literally nothing, that they already made it all the way through. But it's clear that Isagi wants the fight. He wants the game. He wants to make sure that he beats everybody, beats the best, and he wants to have everything to show for it. So that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to take on this team as if it's his last game and as if he needs to win it. And he tells them that he hopes they take it seriously as well, because he wants to see the best out of every single one of them. Every single one of them. And as he walks away though, one of them would say that it's boring. He doesn't even want to play. I mean, they're already going through. It's kind of just a burden at this point. Football is so boring. And Isagi would turn around and he would look toward the one that just said that. It would be Nagi. He would tell the guy that if it's so boring that he should just lock off. Get the hell out of here. What is he even doing here? What's the point? And don't ever say that about football ever again. Ryo would get defensive, and immediately though he would get shut down. Isagi says that he won't be playing nice on the field. He thought that this would be fun, and he thought that, well, it would be a good game and a time for all of them to understand and evolve. But he changes his mind. He wants to crush them under his foot. He walks away, and his egoist side is definitely creeping out even more than usual. Isagi wants to beat them down brutally. And that's exactly what he'll be able to do, or the chance he'll get in the next game. When the next game is ready, prepared, and they're ready to go at them, well, there's one thing that is known. That Nagi is an issue in terms of who's going to be scoring. And that is the main threat. And Isagi knows this to be true. But he's so confused. How is someone like him, someone that doesn't even care about football, such a prodigy? Still though, The game would begin, and it would start off with a beautiful pass across the field. But this pass was made from Isagi straight to Gagamaru, and he would easily get the header goal right off the bat. A quick goal would definitely give Isagi a massive amount of confidence, especially with how it was able to be set up so easily. But when Nagi and Ryo do the exact same thing back to them, yeah, that's a bit of a deflator. Now it's 1-1, but nonetheless, Isagi wants to show them exactly what he's capable of and exactly what he can do. And frankly, how good he is the reason why everyone else is going to be in position to make plays. When we're talking about drawing in defenders, Isagi is the best at it all. He draws in the defenders like nothing. They know exactly what Isagi wants to do. He begins to use his speed and leverage to try and get by people, and as this happens, he does a quick pass to Bachira. Bachira, using his levels of higher ability in terms of dribbling, would get by a couple people and do a quick pass back to Isagi. But as the pass would fly toward Isagi, he would let it drop between his legs as it would roll toward Kunigami, and in one kick, he scores. He tells Kunigami that he needs to continue to develop, especially developing with his left foot. And he tells him that the more he utilizes it, the better and more lethal they both will get. Isagi says that he can use both feet already, just based on how much he's been practicing, but on top of that, he wants to develop his mind. So Kunigami should start developing with his technique, with his overwhelming power in his body. So during this time, being up 2-1 now, Isagi tries to defend the one and only Nagi. But Nagi is showing why he's such a prodigy. The ability to jump in the air, control the ball midair, and do some crazy juggling is the reason why Nagi's so hard to stop. But Isagi knows how to stop him. And frankly, he's starting to use his mind even more than before. He begins to kind of break down what Nagi's doing and break it down entirely, stopping him from actually getting free goals. But at the same time, Nagi's still really good on his feet, so he begins to dribble around Isagi, but Isagi's able to make up for the difference and react on his own, especially with how fast his body can move. He would go for the steal on Nagi though, but Nagi would bait him in and get by him. But as Nagi goes to shoot for the goal, someone else would come bolting out of nowhere, slamming his head on the ball as it goes barreling back toward the midline. Whoever did this is Raichi. Raichi would slam his head to the ball and it would go flying off toward the middle of the field, and Bachira would be able to recover it. As he recovers it, he does a tap pass to Gagamaru, as Gagamaru would quickly pass to Kunigami. Kunigami would take it, and he would see that he's nowhere near his range, but he believes that if he wants to get better, he needs to try and surpass Isagi. Somebody with as big as him, someone that's as strong as him, but he can't let him be that much better. Kunigami would line up and he would fire, but everybody thinks that he's trying to score from this range. That's impossible. That's some absolute insane range, but he's not trying to score. He's actually throwing a pass. He shoots the pass all the way to the opposite side of the field, and you have a running Chiguri down the sideline. He picks up the ball at full speed, outrunning Zantetsu, and as he does, well, it's pretty simple. There's one way to go, and there's one thing to say. It's Chiguri who scores, and now they're up 3-1. Just like that, they've broken free. Nagi has a realization that their team may be good, but it's only good because there's a accumulation of him, Ryo, and Zantetsu, and that is it. No one else. It seems like the other people are falling behind, and falling behind at a very, very fast rate, which is definitely not a good thing. Nagi makes it clear that he'll take over now, and he tells Ryo to just pass him the ball, that he'll surpass whoever this guy is, he'll surpass whatever he's capable of. and Nagi begins to evolve even more, taking the pass initially from Ryo, as Ryo would run kind of near next to him. A tap pass to Ryo would lead to then a longer pass to Nagi. Nagi mid-air would gather the ball, but he would, as if he would dribble the ball mid-air and switch feet, looking to take a shot. But Isagi would with his overwhelming strength and size, he would recover, and as Nagi tries to shoot the ball, he would get a chip on it, and as it tips, the goalie for their team would actually be able to recover and catch it. This would shock Nagi to his core, thinking that there's no way he was able to recover. Yes, he knows he's fast and he's well, just a big dude, someone that is gifted, but how? How is he able to do that? He shouldn't be able to do that. But then Nagi has a realization that it seems that Isagi is slowly but surely using his head a lot more, using his deduction and where he thinks Nagi will go before he goes, in which does make up for a lot of the ground that he would lose normally if he was just guessing. So now his monstrous body, his insane movement, his speed, strength, and all of that copied on to the idea that his mind is now developing. Well, it's almost impossible to stop someone like that. He is truly a freak of nature. Nagi still is trying to evolve, and even trying to use Zantetsu in a way so that they can try to find goals in quick succession near the goal itself. But it seems like everywhere he goes, the speed of, well, Chiguri, of Raichi, and mainly of the one and only Isagi is kind of making up for the difference, making up for the giant difference between the kind of speed burst that they do and their plays that they are trying to recover from. It seems that every defensive formation that Isagi's team or Team Z puts themselves in is perfect enough to do everything. And Nagi may find his way to the goal one more time, making it 3-2, but he can tell that he's not evolving fast enough and his team may be holding him back. And there's one person that is the catalyst for Team Z throughout all this. Nagi would watch as Isagi would set up another pass to the one and only Kunigami, who would score, this time with his left foot. Was it beautiful? Not really, but it had power behind it. Kunigami knows that he has to keep working at it and working on his skill with his left foot, but when he kicks that ball and he makes that goal, everybody is shocked, standing there in awe, and it's obvious that Team V is outclassed, and outclassed by a good bit, because Nagi, he can't carry his team like he's used to. Ryo's, all of his weaknesses are coming about and are pretty obvious and relevant now, and Zantetsu's speed or quickness in short field situations are being limited by the long legs and reaction time of Isagi. And on top of that, Raichi is playing the best defense of his life. Now with that said, the game would soon end and a couple more goals would be picked up by the Team Z, and it would end at a score of 7-2. Team V may have put up the best fight against this team, but in terms of development, Isagi, Bachira, Kunigami, even Gagamaru, and even Chiguri has evolved so much, and they continue to evolve to the extent that they want. They go 4-0 in their brackets, and it seems as if they're the top team in all of Blue Lock, or at least in all of their section of Blue Lock. But after all of it is said and done, they actually learn that the ratings they have are kind of lies, at least to an extent. It gets all explained that where they are right now is actually not technically the worst place to be, in which they're kind of confused, and Ego explains that all of these were labeled as the lowest areas so that everybody would feel adversity and that everybody here would feel as if they were at the bottom of the barrel, so he can break them all down to build them back up. Isagi didn't even really think too much about this, but it does make sense. The fact is, he probably wouldn't have tried as hard if he knew that it was kind of all a hoax and not true at all. So maybe it's good that they did this. Maybe it's good that they more or less put this into action, because it made all of them work that much harder. And flat out, that's just the truth of it. So the fact is, they worked that much harder because they were told that they sucked and that everyone else was better than them. But that's kind of beyond the point, because at the end of the day, it worked for their betterment. And now Ego explains that they're going to be doing some physical training, and then they'll be going on to the second selection. They begin working out, getting ready, and getting preparations all ready and done with. And frankly, the physical portion of it is pretty easy for Isagi. He's already been working out like crazy, and he's shredded already, so this wouldn't be too hard for him in terms of what he needs to do. After it's all said and done, the first part of the second selection would then begin, and that first part involves the one and only Blue Lock Man. It's a goalkeeping system that is more or less holographic, but is actually able to be used in a real life scenario, which is ironic because it's holographic. But still, it's kind of like an AI robot that is going to be their goalie from here on out. So Isagi is more or less forced into training with this goalie, and what he has to do is score 100 goals in 90 minutes, in which shouldn't be too hard for him, and frankly it isn't going to be too hard for him. It's going to be a lot of pretty easy goals. He's already extremely super strong. He already knows how to score goals from practically every single range, and also practically with both of his feet. So his insane and dynamic and explosive way of movement would be extremely beneficial for destroying Blue Lock Man. So after he defeats Blue Lock Man, he would walk out into the area that is the next place, which is for the second selection. But as he does, the entirety of the room is empty, in which it would surprise him. It seems that he's the first person to get here. But at the same time, he's not even, well, the number one in the entirety of Blue Lock. I mean, on his side, it actually says he's only around number 6, in which he's surprised because he feels like he's better than number 6, but hey, it's fine with him. He doesn't really mind too much. But the next person to actually walk in would immediately tell him that they're joining teams together, in which Isagi would be confused, and it would be the one and only Itoshi Rin. Rin would be telling Isagi that he doesn't care who's on his team, but at least they need to hurry up and get this done and over with. But Isagi says he'll join his team as long as his teammate, one of his teammates, can actually join. And Rin says it's fine, he doesn't care, and eventually the arrival of Bachira would ensue, which he would come even earlier because the fact is Bachira has gotten a lot better since the beginning of Blue Lock. Far better than what he would even in canon. So Isagi says that they'll be joining up with this guy. It seems he's really determined to just go now, and Isagi likes the idea of, well, just, getting this over and done with. Bachira would then say that he did realize that the guy has number 1 on his shirt, right? In which Isagi would look and see and kind of shrug it off and say that he doesn't look like he's anything too special. In which Rin would scoff and kind of just be annoyed by this, saying that he'll be watching from the sidelines anyways as he becomes the best striker in the world. And Isagi smirks and says that he'll see what he's really capable of when they step on the field together. In which that's definitely going to be the case. Isagi, Rin, and Bachira, they head into the next room and they await their next challenge. They're asking themselves and considering who they'll go against first and who will come through that doorway next. And as they wait, they're kind of taken back by how long it's taking, and they're kind of annoyed by it. But eventually and finally, someone would walk through. It is the team of Nagi, Ryo, and Kunigami. It seems as if, well, Nagi was insistent about picking up the next person that walked through, especially after Ryo came in, and he said that he wanted to take on Isagi, especially if he wasn't going to be able to join teams with him, in which they insist on taking on them. But Ryo would question if this is such a good idea. I mean, Isagi just beat them. not too long ago as well. Bachira was a part of that team and they don't even know who this other guy is. But Nagi's insistent, and Kunigami himself says that he wants to take on them as well. He wants to see how far he's truly come. In which Isagi says this is a great idea, and he asks Rin what he thinks. And Rin says he doesn't care as long as they start the match now, in which that would be the case. So the first match of the second selection will be Isagi, Rin, and Bachira versus Nagi, Ryo, and Kunigami. How will it go? Well, you'll have to find out. Rin, Isagi, and Bachira. They're going to be taking on Nagi, Kunigami, and Ryo. But frankly, even Ryo is concerned about if they can truly win this. I mean, Isagi is a freak of nature. And on top of that, they don't know what Rin is capable of. And also, Bachira. Bachira is so unorthodox that it's extremely hard to guard, especially in a 3v3 format. And they would be correct, because at the very beginning of the match, well, Rin would immediately shoot from kickoff and score their first goal. Kunigami would see this and realize in its entirety what kind of situation they truly are in. This situation is something bad. I mean, just flat out, a terrible one. Because at the end of the day, the matchup just isn't that favorable for them. Especially when they get on offense, Nagi may be a prodigy, may be insane, may be extremely gifted, but in terms of matchups, it's just not a good one for Nagi. He's more or less tagged by Rin, and that's who covers him the entirety on defense. In terms of who's covering Kunigami, it's Isagi, someone that has better genetics and is just a bigger person than Kunigami, and frankly is just a better player than Kunigami. And with his defensive prowess, it seems as if it's a complete shutdown. There is no chance that Isagi will lose or will most likely at all give up a goal to Kunigami. Now, let's get to Ryo versus Bachira. Yes, Bachira isn't known for his defensive prowess, but Ryo is not necessarily known for his offensive prowess either. Ryo wants to set up passes for Nagi and also Kunigami, but with the eyes and vision of both Isagi and, well, the one and only Rin, it's kind of impossible. It seems as if there's no chance at all, in which that would be true. It would feel like there was no chance at all. It would feel like every single aspect of the field is completely covered up. And the more that Rin sees, the more that Isagi sees. It seems as if Isagi is slowly but surely developing the vision that Rin has, or at least a vision similar to it. And with his freakish power and his freakish abilities to run around and his freakish body type, it seems as if he could be even more lethal than Rin in the near future. But he wants to learn. He needs to devour what Rin is showing him and needs to truly just absorb everything right now. In which he would be able to do. He would be able to devour Rin, learning and adapting and just getting better, stronger, faster, and all of the above. And on top of that, his mind would begin to expand. His mind expands even further so he can predict things before they even happen. And now his eyes are beginning to see the entirety of the field from an entirely different point of view. And this is just going to sway in their direction. The next goal would be by Isagi, and this goal would be very similar to Rin's, but it would be far more difficult. A goal that he would wrap around Kunigami, and a goal basically from the halfway point or the half line, and easily wrapping around his right leg, shooting around Kunigami and scoring very easily. In terms of the next goal, it would be by Bachira. His unorthodox dribbling would just lead to him more or less just getting by Ryo relatively easily, and frankly Nagi or also Kunigami can't just peel off. If they peel off, some majorly bad things will happen. I mean, if Bachira doesn't score, someone else will. So when he scores the third goal, they all realize how outmatched they are and how perfectly in sync it seems that Rin's team currently is. And even Rin can see this as well, seeing that Isagi and Bachira are insane fits for his playstyle and insane fits for what they want to do as a team. Now, does that make it so Rin likes them anymore? No. He believes that they're just a means to an end, that he needs to get to a certain point and he could utilize them to get there, in which that's just how Rin thinks, and that's how Rin will always think. But with that said, Rin believes that they are useful right now, in which they would score the next 2 goals, winning 5-0. Yeah, 5-0. They didn't even really put up that much of a fight, but Rin does say that there is one person on that team that he does want, and that would be Nagi himself. Nagi is someone that has a ton of potential, and in the system that they're going to be running in their 4v4, it seems like he would be unstoppable, because frankly there is nobody that would be able to guard him, or at least not guard him that easily, which is amazing to see. Rin wouldn't really care that much because he doesn't think too much about what the 5v5 will even look like, but at the end of the day, the 4v4 should be easy enough, in which that would be relatively true. But he would take on some of the top players in Blue Lock, eventually leading to Aru, Tokumitsu, Baro, and also Chiguri. Yeah, Chiguri would be a bit of a handful just because of his flat out speed. But Isagi himself is pretty damn quick, and on top of that, his height and ability to jump will definitely kind of change Chiguri's speed into a bit of a weakness, kind of cornering him out. But if he doesn't cover someone like Baro or Aru, then maybe they're running into a little bit of an issue with a height difference. But with Nagi's athleticism, there could be a massive advantage there as well. His ball control leads to a lot of people overcommitting and also leading them into bad spots. But to be fair, will this really be a challenge when you have Rin on your side? Rin would basically make the lives of the other team kind of hell. And more so especially because Baro is still in that selfish mindset that he really wants to just play on his own. But they couldn't just not pick Baro, especially because of the fact of he's that talented. But it seems like Baro is kind of slipping, slowly but surely slipping back into a really bad way of playing football, and it's kind of hurting his team at the end of the day. And it seems that Baro is going to be kind of going back down because of how bad he's playing. But Isagi kind of watches throughout this game. He continues to try and help and do certain things, but there is one thing he decides to do. While they're up 3-0, he decides to actually utilize something that he believes Baro kind of utilizes, but not to its fullest extent, He waits for an opening, waiting patiently. As he does this, it's as if he's stalking the ball. He continues to stalk, waiting, patient, until eventually Rin begins to dribble it, but it's as if the opening just is wide open, as if it's all there. He takes the ball from Rin as if he's just out of nowhere, a dart of a lion that was stalking his prey, capturing it and then scoring for himself. Rin is confused, but he actually sees something. He sees something that Isagi just did, and he realizes that he was mimicking kind of what Baro should be doing, and an aspect of what Baro has been doing that just hasn't been evolved quite yet enough. And eventually the end of the game would arrive, but here's the thing. Baro kind of learns from this, at least to an extent, learning of this prowler, this version of himself that he's kind of seen Isagi utilize, and maybe he can utilize it better in the future. Maybe he can actually extend what he knows and actually extend his abilities in football. Now that's something he wants to do, and something he'll make sure to do as he goes down, because the pick that they want is Chiguri. Chiguri is too fast, too athletic, and just too big of a playmaker, especially with his speed, to pass up. So they pick him up, and the 5 of them then move on to the next round. But the next round is a little bit different. The next round involves a 5v5, but the 5v5 is actually against the World 5. Yes, the World 5. The World 5 is more or less the top players of that in football that just consist in the entirety of the world. Now, this is a scary prospect. Some of these players are just absolutely elite. Actually, all of them are absolutely elite. Practically unstoppable. Practically unavoidable. It's kind of just overall a difficult sense. But luckily, Isagi, at least himself, can kind of keep up with a couple of them. Not the more faster and more quick players on the team, but the bigger guy on the team. Let's just say he would immediately recognize Isagi as someone that is gritty enough to go heads up with him. He would kind of talk to him, saying that maybe he'll be the next heavy tank of Japan, that he's interested in how he plays the game, and he's interested in what to see. In which Isagi would laugh at this, saying that they'll definitely see what they can do, and Rin would walk over, saying that this is no joyride, this is no sightseeing tour, because he's going to make this traumatic. He wants to make sure that he shows all of them that he's levels above. In which Isagi would look at him and he would like the confidence. He would like what's going on with Rin, but even Isagi knows to a certain extent that this match is not fair. This match is not made for them to win. Yes, he wants to win, but there's a good chance they don't. Quickly, a pass would be given to Isagi as he would do a tap pass to Bachira. Bachira would look to pass right back to him as he would let the ball roll right into Rin's lap. Rin would look for a pass down the field but fake it this time, and he would shoot, scoring a goal, or the first goal of their match. This would give Rin some confidence, him thinking that he could actually win. But the thing is, that's not gonna really happen. Yeah, they begin to shred the team, absolutely pick apart and obliterate Isagi's team, and they are up 4-1 faster than you could really even blink. But luckily enough, they get the ball back, and Isagi would be able to facilitate actually devouring Rin as well, and during this time, basically be able to facilitate a goal to Chiguri, a deep pass leading to a goal, and frankly, the World 5 is pretty impressed. I mean, they weren't expecting that. I mean, that's something different. They didn't think they would even get by them like that, but unfortunately, it's over. But Isagi would go heads up with the heavy tank from Brazil, and he would show how much he's really evolved throughout this time. He's maybe even matching the strength and resilience of the heavy tank, of the Brazilian rep, and it's actually impressive to him. He thinks this is great, and frankly, the other 4 of the World 5 would kind of clown on him a little bit, kind of making fun of him, saying that this high schooler is keeping up with him. But of course, the response is that it's not that simple. He's obviously got some grit on him, and he's obviously a gifted athlete. Look at him, he's a freak like me. And of course, there would be some pride in that, and he would be able to keep up relatively well, but the game would end exactly how it would end normally, with them losing. But they would only lose 5-2, and they would show some impressive aspects of their game, Isagi included. But at the end of the day, they were set up to fail, and they were set up to lose. But this is all a learning experience. Jinpachi Ego is an intelligent man, and he even knows that this important and this crucial lesson is something that they need to go through. This lesson in defeat is something they need to understand the levels, understand that there are people out there that much better than them. And as long as they understand that, they can derive their ego and enhance it in ways they can't possibly imagine. They can increase their strengths, hide their weaknesses, and dissolve them entirely. Now, with that said, the World 5 would walk off because it would be over. Their little sport, their little game they had here, getting paid a ton of money to do so, is over. And Isagi's team would walk off. They would speak about the game. how they did and what they did wrong. Rin would be in a state of shock, but would be pissed at the same time, but they would continue working out and training together at that. Isagi would want to train with Rin, would want to work out with him, would want to learn more, in which everybody kind of does that throughout this time until the second selection is over in its entirety. And when everyone else comes through and everyone else walks in, there's one person missing that Isagi isn't too happy about not seeing. That is Kunigami. Kunigami unfortunately lost during this and has now been eliminated from Blue Lock. And it seems like he lost his chance entirely at being the #1 striker. But he can't dwell on that right now. What they need to dwell on and hope for now is whatever's to come next. And Jinpachi Ego would inform them that they're going to be fighting for their lives. They're going to be fighting for Blue Lock's chance at thriving, and they're going to be playing against Japan's U20 team. And everyone is kind of confused by this, but Jinpachi Ego says he'll be picking the proper team to go against them, and then if they don't win, let's just say Blue Lock goes down the drain. Their chances, true chances at being the #1 striker, go down with it. So what's in the balance of this game? There's one thing, and one thing only. Their chance at truly being the best will go down the drain if they lose, and that is what's in the balance. So Isagi and many others in Blue Lock will take on Japan's U20 team. But there's many things to do, and Jinpachi Ego knows that to be true. He tells them all to get ready, because this next little bit of time is going to be proof that they can beat the U20 team of Japan. But that is where the story will leave off, and will leave off for now.